Hey, it's Dr. Sharon Livingston, and you're listening to the 360 Entrepreneur with Yanni Lunga, and he's a great guy.
This is episode 155, and in this one, we talk about Coaching 101. Here we go.
Welcome to the 360 Entrepreneur Podcast, the show for entrepreneurs and small business owners who dream big and want to do bigger. Join some of the world's top entrepreneurs, internet marketers, and best-selling authors as they share their inspiring stories, their struggles, and give actionable tips that will help you build, grow, and promote your online business. Here's your host, Yanni Lunga.
Hey there, how's it going? Welcome to this new episode of the 360 Entrepreneur Podcast, and this one is all about coaching. So whether you are a coach and you've been coaching for years or you're about to enter the coaching world, this one is really for you. And we're joined by an incredible guest who knows more than a thing or two about coaching. And I'm talking about Dr. Sharon Livingston. And really, she has so much knowledge on the subject, and she shares a huge amount of advice with all of us today. The show notes for today's interview are over at yannilunga.com/episode 155. All right, without further ado, here is Coaching 101 with Dr. Sharon Livingston. Hey everybody, today we are joined by an incredible, and I mean incredible guest. She's an author, an hypnotist, and a business coach who has personally assisted hundreds of people and businesses to refine their best qualities, helping them find the right niche and build their businesses from scratch. She's the president of the International Coach Certification Alliance and business coach who has sold over 30 million in consulting to Fortune 500 companies. She has been featured in a bunch of places like the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, and also in the New York Times bestseller, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And she's here with us. I'm so happy to welcome on the show Dr. Sharon Livingston. Hey, Dr. Sharon, how are you today?
I'm terrific, and Jan, please call me Sharon.
Perfect. Sharon it is then. Thank you so much for being here with us. I'm so thrilled to have you here, really.
I'm delighted to be here. What would you like to talk about today?
Well, I guess the first thing that should be here in order for this episode is to tell all of us a little bit more about your story, because I'm sure there are some entrepreneurs and business owners here with you and I who are already familiar with who you are and what you do, but some may not be familiar. So Sharon, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Well, yes, I would be delighted. I've had a dual career, and now I've added writing to it, so
Right.
triple. When I started out, I was very, very interested in creativity and psychology, and I was studying psychology. I got out of my undergrad with a bachelor's in psychology, and I was helping myself through school by working as an interviewer. And I was trained to be an interviewer by my mother, because the only way that I ever got her to talk to me was by asking her intriguing questions. So I learned at a very young age to ask her to tell me stories. And they were good if they were about her, not so good if they were about me. She got more bored if she... So I learned early on that if you focus on the other person, if I ask Jan about Jan, he's more likely to talk to me longer and tell me things. And so in studying psychology, I learned more about how to help people tell their stories. And I use that in marketing research. And so I developed a practice as an interviewer and a focus group moderator, where I worked for Fortune 100 companies, getting people to tell me all about them, to tell me their stories, and how that related to different products or problems and solutions. So I just went out and told people, listen, I'm really good at getting people to tell me their stories. Let me help you get stories about your brands. And that was how I started. And I built a very successful business. I still run that business, although now I straddled two areas. My husband and I decided that we wanted to give back to the world, and we both have both psychology and marketing skills, and
Mhm.
we together created the International Coach Certification Alliance, where we teach people how to become business coaches, life coaches, personal coaches, executive coaches, spiritual coaches. Our latest program is in spiritual coaching. And I have to tell you that this is going to sound kind of grandiose. I got some problem things from my parents, but one of the good things that I got from my parents is that basically I could do what I wanted to do. And so I asked myself, well, what did I want to do? And I liked to play. And
Mhm.
I figured out how to use play, creative play, in the sessions to help people learn about things. So I use play. You know, I guess it's like edutainment.
Right.
I learned how to use play to help people grow. And that's basically what we do, and that's what I've been doing for my whole career. Even my
Okay.
book, even my book is a playful approach to a serious problem.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. And I'm curious, Sharon, because you told us that story and storytelling is something you're very good at really helping. In this case, you told us about businesses getting stories about their brands. So obviously that's a pretty big topic, and it could very well be a topic of an entire podcast interview itself. But if you were to give some advice to all the entrepreneurs and small business owners who are here with you and I, what are some of the first steps they can take in order to kind of become better at sharing their story and also to connect with their community through their story?
So, first of all, I think the most important question is to ask yourself, are you doing something that has value to you?
Mm-hmm.
Because too many people have jobs that are drudgery to them. They
Right.
they they don't like getting up in the morning. They hate their work. In the middle of the afternoon, they think it's just a 3 o'clock slump, but it's more like the 3 o'clock I hate my job slump.
Right.
And so when you're really in love with what you do, with your work, I feel so blessed that I figured that out early. I have always loved my work. I have always loved my work. And if you don't, it's really hard to be successful. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you can figure out how to make money, but it doesn't last because it becomes like, who cares? I've got
Right.
all this money, but why am I here? Who am I? And so you might ask yourself a series of questions. And this is a wonderful thing to do with a coach, as you know, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
But to find out, well, who am I? What do I like? What do I really, really love to do? What are
Mm-hmm.
my strengths? What do I do incredibly well? And then take a look at that list and see how well that matches with what you're doing for work. Because if you have chosen a career where your passions, the things you enjoy, are not being represented, you're probably not going to be very happy.
Right.
So I think that's the most critical thing. We do an exercise in our coaching program where we ask people to jot down 20 things that they love to do, or at least like to do, and 20 things they hate to do, or at least don't like doing. And then we have them pick their top 10, their top 5, and then, prioritize them. And you would be shocked at how many people have work on the bad side of the page, because
Hmm.
no wonder they're not doing well. They hate what they're doing. They're having to do things that are not in their strengths. They're having to do things that they should be delegating. And that's one of the cool things you can find out, by the way, is, look, I have to do this paperwork. Somebody has to do this paperwork.
Right.
Is it possible? Could I get a kid? Could I get a high school kid to come in for a few dollars an hour and do it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so the first thing I think to do is to take a look at what you're doing and see how it matches up with what you wish you could do. If you had the ideal life, what would you be doing? Where would that be? And so that's one way to start to find that out. again, as I say, I have always mostly done the things I love to do. When I do that list for myself of my 20 things I love to do, I love to decorate.
Hmm.
And one of the ways I decorate is I decorate a PowerPoint. I
Okay.
love, right? That's decorating. It's not my house, but I make the PowerPoint look awesome. And so that's, yes.
And is that, I'm curious, for you personally, Sharon, is that a kind of exercise that you do? I mean, I assume you don't do it like every month, but is it something you may do every few years to kind of assess where you are and where you want to go, or and also for the
Yes.
listeners, obviously. Okay.
Yes. Now, for listeners, if you've never done it before, I would recommend that you do it again 6 months from now. Check in with yourself.
Okay, I like that. I like that a lot, actually, Sharon. Thank you for sharing that exercise with us. So you heard it. Make sure to start and make a list of the things you're passionate about, the things you're good at, the things that you don't like so much, and maybe your weaknesses. And you heard it. Sharon told us with her clients, they do the top 20 and then take it from there, top 10, top 5, and then do it on a regular basis every few months. You heard it in this case. Try again 6 months from now. Put a reminder on your phone or your calendar, whatever it is, so that you will remind yourself to do the exercise again. And obviously, as the president of the International Coach Certification Alliance, Sharon, I know that you work closely with coaches. And I'm curious because you told us that you work with different types of coaches, business
Mm-hmm.
coaches, the latest one you told us, spiritual coaches. So I'm curious about coaches. There may be someone who is here with you and I who's thinking, well, I would like to become a coach, or maybe I just got my certification and I would like to get clients, but how do coaches in the personal space get clients? Do you have any tips for the potential business coaches who are here with you and I, Sharon, on how to do that, or where to look for clients?
So one of the first things that you want to do is a really cool little exercise where if you could imagine a little time in the future, you're walking into your office and there are 3 people waiting for you, and you see them and you are delighted. These are the exact people that you want to work with and you love working with them. And so in your mind's eye, take a look at who each one of them is and look at them one by one. Start with the first one. Notice how old are they? What gender are they? What are they wearing? And you know these people, they're not brand new. You've been working with them for a little while. What are they coming to see you about? What's their presenting problem? How did they find out about you? Why you? Why you out of all the people in the world? And have like a little dialogue in your mind with this person. Jot some things down. You could even go online and find an avatar of that person. Put it on a document somewhere as you describe them. And then go on to the next person and do the same thing with that person. And these are probably the types of people you would get a lot of satisfaction out of working with. And you'll notice, even if you thought you had a general practice, you will find that these people that you imagine in your office probably have some things in common that has to do with why they came to you specifically. And so once you identify what your specific specialty within the whole coaching arena, whether you're a business coach or a personal coach or a spiritual coach, all of those are general and they can be specified. Then think about, where would those people hang out?
Right.
Where might you find them? And go and create a little workshop where you go and talk to them and you tell a little bit about yourself and how you came to what you were doing. It could be a free workshop. It could be a $10 workshop. It doesn't have to be expensive. It could be at the Better Business. It could be at the Chamber of Commerce. It could be at the Rotary Club. It could be at the library. It could be at a house of worship. It could be any place where people gather. And again, think about who those people are. And you might even choose one of those places within a community that you think would have those people. At a coffee shop, a lot of gyms now have meeting rooms.
True,
you could go there. So there are many different venues where you could go, offer a free or low cost workshop, and you start the workshop with one or two questions that are relevant to what your area is, and then just go around the room, and within just a few minutes, you will have captured these people's attention, and they're telling their stories, so you're no longer on the hot seat having to tell yours. And by the time you go around the room, maybe you have a couple of other questions, maybe not, because that could take up a whole hour right there.
Right. And
then you have an offering at the back of the room where you tell them you've got a six-point class where you'll be meeting 6 times for the next 6 weeks, and if they would like to attend because they were here, they get a special price or something like that. If they would like to have a consultation, this is how they get in touch with you. Of course, the consultation is free, and then you figure out from there. Or however else you'd like to do it. Maybe you have a gift for them. If you have an article you wrote, you could give it to them. And that's a wonderful way to get started.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sharon. Thank you for sharing that. And what I really like about what you just told us is that first of all, as you said, it's not that we have to come up with a list of 20 questions. It can even be just 2, 3 questions. And I think what it's very, very good about that kind of tactic or strategy is that by asking a question and really listening to the answers, and you told us earlier at the beginning how you know that listening is very important. By listening to the people who are attending our workshop, we're really gonna identify trends, identify specific terminology that they may be using, so that's something that then we can also incorporate in our next workshop or on our website or on our coaching landing page or webinar, whatever we may have. So I really like the idea you suggested, and as you told us, in terms of the location, it could really be pretty much anywhere people can gather. And obviously, if you're maybe on a different continent, like in this case that Sharon is in America, I'm in Europe, you can leverage the online space. Obviously, you can come up with a similar exercise and then a sort of webinar or free call in the online space. So you can definitely do that too, even if you may be, let's say, far from your potential clients. And I'm curious, Sharon, I'm sure that the next question you may have some interesting answers. And what I'd like you to tell us more about is some common mistakes coaches make. I mean, I'm sure you would have like a whole list of mistakes, but when it comes, especially maybe when starting out, are there some common mistakes that you have identified and you see popping up over and over again with coaches?
Yes, and I just wanted to add to what you said about the webinar. So, for example, we have people in our program from all over the globe, as long as they can speak English, because we're not very good in other languages. And so, like, we have a webinar tonight where we're inviting prospects to just come and talk. And 1 or 2 of them will sign up. That's invariable. That happens all the time. So I really like you adding the webinar to it, and I didn't even think to add it right at that moment. And we do that every single week. So yeah, that's a wonderful thing to do.
Okay, sorry, Sharon, to interrupt you. Then before maybe you tell us more about the common mistakes, can you share with us? I mean, obviously, like in every episode, guys, you're gonna find the links to everything Sharon and I are talking about, including the links to her website, coachcertificationalliance.com, tlgonline.com, and also the link to the webinar. What is your kind of funnel or onboarding process? So in this case, you have a weekly webinar.
Right. And so we have a big mailing list that people are always coming into. We run advertising using AdWords, and people join in because they take a coaching test. We have a coaching test that they can go take to see if they might be a good candidate to become a coach. And then once they get onto our list, we send them interesting emails and stuff. And whenever we do the webinar, we say, listen, if you're interested, we're having a Q&A on coaching, becoming a coach, and it's going to be on Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So come on down. And that's how that works.
Okay.
Sometimes we put it on Facebook, um, but mostly it's out of our. So we have this list of like 30,000 people at this point, and it changes. You know, people come in and out all the time.
Right.
So that's how we do it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for sharing. I was curious to see how you and your team do that, and obviously also for the people who are here with you and I, maybe that's definitely an example they can follow.
And then in terms of mistakes that new coaches make, they think they have to have all the answers.
Right. Yeah.
They think they're teachers rather than coaches. They think they're mentors rather than coaches. And ideally, what we're doing is we're looking at this person's strengths. We're helping them articulate what their goal is. And then we're walking alongside of them as they're walking towards their goal. And, you know, it's like an airplane going to a destination. 95% of the time, it's not in a straight line going to the destination. It goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And so we have to help them be comfortable with the flight as they're going up this mountain, because it's not always going to be straight line.
Right. So you brought up an interesting point, because you mentioned that coaches often think that they should have all the answers, and you said that there should be a difference between coaching and or being a coach and being a teacher. So what do you think are the main differences? So we pretty much have, I assume everybody who's here with you and I know what a teacher does, and what about a coach? So what are the main differences?
The main difference is that a coach is there to help someone strengthen what they already have. So, you know, when you go to a fitness trainer, I mean, those were the first model of what a coach is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So somebody goes in, he's a skinny malink, but he's got muscles. He's got muscles. And if you apply these exercises, the muscles will grow.
Right.
And so what the coach does is not tell him how to lift a weight, not give him too much weight, but to invite him to try this exercise, to try that exercise. Now, which muscles now you said you wanted slim, long muscles. Oh, you want bulky muscles? Well, if you do that, you might want to try this, you might want to try that. Or what have you already tried? And by the way, why do you want that kind of muscle anyway?
Right.
So we help them to identify the goal, the reasons for the goal, what is in it for them, and speak much. So, and then we help them start the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes along the way, they might get stuck. And so we have to help them understand why they're stuck. Because that happens all the time.
Right.
When you're trying to do weightlifting, for example, at some point you reach a plateau and, oh my God, I think I pulled a muscle. Oh,
Right.
I can't push it any further. I thought I could lift this up and I can't, and I'm getting frustrated. So we need to be there and hold their hand when they get frustrated and let them know that, yeah, that's part of the process. Good for you. Good for you. You're hitting some resistance.
Right.
That means you're close to a breakthrough. So coaching is about encouragement. Coaching is a little bit about cheerleading. Coaching is about sharing tools that will help someone get to that point on that particular journey, because most likely they've come to you because you went through something similar and you know how to get there. And so, well, when I was in that position, I tried this. Is that something you might be interested in? Oh, well, great. Well, here's how I did it. You might have a different way of doing it. Or you might think, oh, I might try it totally differently. Doesn't matter. It's helping them to find a tool to get to that goal. So I was at a workout this morning. That's why this image is in my mind so much. And I hadn't gone for a while. And oh man, I do aerobics and I do lower body. I do 100 flights of stairs every day. So my lower body is in pretty good shape, but it gets stiff because I don't stretch. And then my upper body is a wreck. I mean, I've got like little wimpy girl muscles. And so the trainer, even though he was training a whole class, kept coming over to me with different ways, different types of weights, suggesting I do a different exercise. There are like 6 different things to get to the same result.
I
And
know, I
a
like
good
it.
coach knows that, right?
Hmm.
So if you have
Yeah.
a good coach, you have a bunch of tricks in your pocket that you could pull out. So when somebody hits one form of resistance or another, that there are different things you can do to help them on their journey. And that's one of the things we teach is all these different tools.
I love it. Thank you so much, Sharon, really, for sharing your expertise and now telling us the difference between what a coach does compared to a teacher, and the common mistake of thinking that one needs to have all the answers. I mentioned your sites, coachcertificationalliance.com, tlgonline.com. You're on Twitter at Sharon Livingston, and it's spelled SharonLivingston, so without the O in Livingston. And if
Yes.
people would like to connect with you, or maybe ask you a question, or simply say thank you for being here and sharing your expertise, what is the best way to do that?
Feel free to give me a call. I have my cell and I always answer when people call. I'll call back 603. It's 1-603 505 5000. Do you believe that's my cell phone?
Well, I believe it because you shared it with us, Sharon. And again, guys, you'll find the links to everything, including Sharon's phone number, if Sharon is okay with you, in the show notes.
Yes, very good. Can I tell you one other thing that's about coaches that you need to be careful with?
Absolutely.
And that is a coach versus a therapist.
Ooh,
Therapy
yeah.
is about someone who's broken. Therapy sees people as having a problem that needs to be fixed. So that's one of the reasons why, even though we both have PhDs in psychology, we move towards coaching as a model, because coaching assumes that people are strong and they can do things. They don't need to be fixed. They need to be grown.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times when people are broken and you have to send them to a therapist, of course.
Right.
But we love the healthy model. It's a wellness model rather than a sickness model.
Yeah, I think actually it was a very good point for you to make, because I think it really helps all the people who are here with you and I, Sharon, understand the mindset necessary to be a coach, so that you can help others and help more people by doing what you're passionate about and really emphasizing their strengths, and, like you told us, really help them in the better and not fix them when they're feeling bad or the weaknesses. Even though you told us that being a coach has also a cheerleading part in it.
Right. Well, you're cheerleading their strengths because, oh, wow, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. It's not like, oh, you poor thing. You'll never be able to do that. Just
Right.
get over yourself. Don't even bother.
Yeah. No, you're
Find another profession.
yeah. No, you're so right. Well, Sharon, I have to ask you the final question to wrap up this great conversation is, do you have any final tips, any final words of advice for all the people who are here with you and I when it comes to the world of coaching?
Listen. Listen more than talk. 80% of the time, just listen.
I love it. I was listening. I love it. And I think it really ties into what you had told us early on when we talked about the workshops, about identifying who your ideal customer is and the avatar. So I think it's a great way for all of us to say thank you, Sharon, for what you do and for being here and telling us more about what it takes to be a successful coach. I really, really appreciate it.
And Jan, you were being a wonderful coach. Look, you got me talking. You listened and you got me talking about myself. How wonderful of you.
Oh, you are the one who has been wonderful. Thank you for really making time for all of us and sharing your coaching wisdom. I really, really